People in Puerto Rico are also preparing to head to their polling places on Tuesday, even though voters there cannot cast a ballot in the presidential race. News Nation correspondent Michael Shore explains how Puerto Ricans are impacting the election, even though they will not be able to vote in it. Michael.
Rob, good evening to you from San Juan. It's really an interesting phenomenon. That's exactly right. You have these voters here who can't vote, but a lot of people are campaigning for them to actually try and persuade family members in other parts of America who can vote to vote. But also on the ballot here on Tuesday is something that is totally different from the presidential election in the United States, and that is statehood. They're going to be putting a referendum up there again in Puerto Rico, trying to see if they can become the 51st U.S. state. The Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, the U.S. territory that sits about 1,000 miles southeast of Miami, will cast ballots next Tuesday. But the 3.2 million Puerto Ricans who live here cannot vote in the U.S. presidential election. That doesn't stop the campaigning.
That it became clear that the well-being and future of our families is completely in our hands.
So days ago, I was honored to receive the endorsement of the governor of Puerto Rico. Can you believe that?
With census estimates putting nearly half of the 5 million Puerto Ricans living in the mainland U.S. in the swing states of Florida, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, and Michigan, it begins to make sense.
So I think it underscores and it makes a very bold statement of the impact that Puerto Ricans can have in those states.
Carmen Yulín Cruz is mayor of Puerto Rico's capital, San Juan. She says that a phone call from Puerto Rico to a relative in the mainland is a crucial campaign tactic. Former Housing Secretary Miguel Hernandez Vivoni agrees.
There's a lot of people working right now, and they have a lot of families in Puerto Rico back here. So we have a lot of issues, economic and social issues.
We have a saying that says, when the economy gets a cold in the U.S., we get pneumonia in Puerto Rico.
Though they can't vote for Trump or Biden, on the ballot here next week is a statehood referendum.
What is going to happen is that we're going to be voting in November the 3rd, stated yes or no. Stated yes should be the winner by a big majority.
Professor Jose Barriga Pico, a former state senator, says that this is how the process begins.
Well, as you know, every deal has two sides. One side is Puerto Rico, the other side is Congress.
And a third side may be the presidential election in the U.S., where statehood is on the ballot in a different way.
Or some people in the Democratic Party have made it an issue to say that Puerto Rico should become a state, not for the reasons I've been talking about, but because they need 2 seats in the Senate.
Cruz is opposed to statehood, but I asked her if a bigger slice of the pie from Washington that could come with 3.2 million voters here was tempting.
Well, you're asking the wrong person, because I don't think money is an argument for statehood.
Hernandez Vivoni says it is more about the power of the Puerto Rican vote.
Puerto Ricans like to vote. We have a turnout like 85% of people that really like to vote. So if they move in the states to vote, there will be a force and they can change an election.
But he also points to some misplaced fear and confidence among the American political parties.
It's a misconception that Puerto Rico will be a democratic state. Even though I'm a Democrat, the truth is that Puerto Ricans, it's a very conservative nation. It's the people in Puerto Rico, it's very conservative.
In the end, though, a yes or no vote may just come down to national pride.
That proud of being a Puerto Rican doesn't detract me from being very proud of being an American also.
I am a U.S. citizen, and I respect my nationality, which is Puerto Rican. That is different than being an American living in Puerto Rico.
And a yes vote here on Tuesday doesn't, of course, mean that Puerto Rico will be a state, but what it does do is it puts a little bit of pressure on the U.S. Congress. The president has nothing to do with this. All of the power for adding states to the union happens in Congress. And, of course, if that happens, it will be a real battle at the beginning of the next Congress in January. I am in San Juan for News Nation, and I'm Michael Shore.